Good evening. This is All India Radio. I'm Naresh Mago and with me is Renuka RS with the evening news. The headlines. India achieves another milestone in administering more than 3 crore COVID-19 vaccine doses in record time. Centre approves financial assistance of 5 lakh rupees each in death cases of journalists due to COVID-19. Campaigning gains momentum in Assam and West Bengal for first phase of assembly elections. Delhi court awards death penalty to Arya Khan in 2008 Butler House encounter case. There is no proposal to bring petroleum products under goods and services tax, says government. Lok Sabha takes up discussion on demands for grants of the Ministry of Railways for 2021-2022. Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar says world has accepted India's leadership in mitigating climate change. And in cricket, India to take on England in third T20 match in Ahmedabad tomorrow. As the nation fights the COVID-19 pandemic, we begin with a message of precaution to stay safe and protected by following these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask. Maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing. Focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. India has scaled a significant peak in COVID-19 vaccinations as more than 3 crore doses of COVID-19 vaccines have been administered in record time. Till now, 3.15 crore COVID-19 vaccine doses have been administered to the beneficiaries. The countrywide vaccination drive was rolled out on 16th January 2021 for healthcare workers. Vaccination of the frontline workers started from 2nd February. The next phase of COVID-19 vaccination commenced from 1st March for those who are over 60 years of age and for people aged 45 and above with specified comorbid conditions. Meanwhile, the country's COVID-19 recovery rate reached 96.68% with a total recovery of more than 17,000 patients in the last 24 hours. The ministry said that more than 1 crore 10 lakh patients have already recovered from this disease.
The government today said that it has approved financial assistance of 5 lakh rupees each in respect of death case of journalists due to COVID-19. In a written reply to unstarred question in the Rajya Sabha, Information and Broadcasting Minister Prakash Javadekar said that his ministry has carried out a special drive for financial assistance under the Journalist Welfare Scheme. Mr. Javadekar said his ministry had issued an advisory on 22nd of April 2020 advising all media persons to take due health-related precaution and requesting media houses to take necessary care of their field staff as well as office staff. The minister asserted that the Ministry of Labour and Employment, through its advisory to all the chief secretaries of states and union territories and all the Employers Association, has advised all the employers of public and private establishment to extend their coordination by not terminating their employees, particularly casual or contractual workers, from job or reduce their wages. A sudden surge in COVID-19 cases in Maharashtra has created a worrisome situation as the state recorded nearly 17,000 cases yesterday. More from our Mumbai correspondent.
Maharashtra Health Minister Rajesh Tope has urged the people to strictly follow the guidelines in order to curb the spread of corona infection. Tope informed the state government has adopted tracking, testing and treatment methods to avoid the spread of the virus. As per the data, 85% of the patients who have tested positive are asymptomatic, so most of have been home quarantined. He also reiterated that protocols and norms have to be strictly followed at wedding lawns, marriage halls, cultural programs, and the citizens should also make sure to take up the responsibility to wear masks, maintain social distancing and avoid overcrowding. Nivedita, AIR News, Mumbai.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will hold a virtual summit with Prime Minister of the Finland, Sanna Marin, tomorrow. During the summit, the two leaders will cover the entire spectrum of bilateral relationship and will also exchange views on regional and global issues of mutual interest. The virtual summit will provide a blueprint for the future expansion and diversification of India-Finland partnership.
Hectic political activities are underway in West Bengal, Assam, Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Union Territory of Puducherry ahead of the upcoming assembly elections. Campaigning is gaining momentum in Assam and West Bengal for the first phase of assembly polls. Speaking at a town hall event, Agragami Assam in Guwahati this evening, senior BJP leader and Union Home Minister Amit Shah said only BJP can protect the culture and language of the state. He assured that the party will continue to work with the motto of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas and Sabka Vishwas. Mr. Shah said that if voted to power, BJP would make the state free from floods. Party's national president JP Nadda, Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan and Assam Chief Minister Sarbananda Sonowal also held several rallies in Upper Assam today. Meanwhile, senior Congress leaders Jitendra Singh, Gaurav Gogoi, Pradyut Bordoloi also addressed election rallies in the state today. In West Bengal, senior leaders, star campaigners and candidates of various political parties are participating in rallies, road shows and door-to-door campaigning in different parts of the state. Senior BJP leader and Union Home Minister Amit Shah today attended a public meeting at Khatra of Ranibandh Assembly constituency in Bankura. He addressed the public meeting at Jhargram virtually. Mr. Shah reiterated that the BJP will come into power in Bengal. Union Minister Nitin Gadkari also addressed two election rallies at Agra and Ramnagar in East Medinipur today. On the other hand, TMC Chief and West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee addressed rallies at Jalda and Balarampur in Purulia. Abhishek Banerjee addressed two rallies at Danton and Chandrakona and participated in a road show in West Medinipur. Candidates of CPIM and Congress were also seen campaigning in the districts for the first phase of assembly elections. 47 assembly constituencies in Assam and 30 assembly seats of West Bengal will go to polls on the 27th of this month during the first phase. Scrutiny of nomination papers took place in Assam and West Bengal for the second phase of assembly polls. 39 seats in Assam and 30 constituencies in West Bengal will go to polls on the 1st of April in the second phase of assembly elections. 3-phase polling will be held in Assam and 8-phase polling in West Bengal.
Filing of nomination papers is also going on for the single-phase assembly elections in Kerala, Tamil Nadu as well as the Union Territory of Puducherry. The single-phase polling in Kerala, Tamil Nadu along with the Union Territory of Puducherry will also be held on 6th of April. Election will be held in 140 assembly constituencies of Kerala, 234 assembly constituencies in Tamil Nadu along with 30 assembly constituencies in Puducherry. In Tamil Nadu, over 600 contestants, including 93 women candidates, filed their nomination papers today. State Chief Minister Edapadi Palaniswamy and DMK leader N.K. Stalin, many state ministers, MNMK leader actor Kamal Hassan, AMMK leader TTV Dinagaran were among those who filed their papers at their respective constituencies. More from our Chennai correspondent.
Actor politician Kamal Hassan filed his nomination for the first time in Coimbatore South. Vanidhi Srinivasan of the BJP also has filed a nomination today. This is one of the constituency where BJP and Congress are at loggerheads. Mayura Jayakumar of the Congress is contesting from here. As a whole, it will be a three-cornered contest. Udayinidhi, the son of DMK leader M.K. Stalin and the grandson of DMK patriarch Karunanidhi, is contesting from Chepak, the constituency from which his father faced election for 6 times and his grandfather Karunanidhi faced the election thrice. Later, the constituency came to be known as Chepak Tiruvalikeni. DMK won the constituency 7 times. The constituency fell vacant last year after the death of J. Anbalagan. Actress Kushbu is also contesting for the first time from the Thousand Lights constituency. She is fielded against Dr. Elilan of the DMK. DMK has won over the constituency 9 times. Joy, AIR News, Chennai.
In Kerala, with 3 major fronts having published in the candidate lists, the campaigning is in full swing in the state. We have a report.
As assembly poll nears, the state is set to witness tough fight between the 3 major fronts LDF, UDF and NDA. Nomination filing is in very active phase. Friday is the deadline for filing nomination. National leaders will visit the state in coming days. Congress and BJP are yet to announce candidates for 6 and 3 constituencies. Candidate announcement for those constituencies are expected soon. Meanwhile, in addition to essential services staff, postal voting facilities has been extended to COVID patients and those in quarantine. Mayusha for AR News from Thiruvananthapuram.
Election Commission has appointed 10 expenditure observers, 10 general observers and 4 police observers in Puducherry. The counting of votes in the 4 states and the Union Territory will take place on 2nd of May.
In view of the prevailing COVID-19 pandemic, the Election Commission has decided to allow maximum 1,000 electors in a polling station instead of the earlier stipulation of 1,500 electors. Accordingly, there is a major change in the number of polling stations in the poll-bound states of Assam, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal and the Union Territory of Puducherry. The option of postal ballot facility has been extended to the electors who are COVID-19 positive or suspect as certified by competent authority and are in home or institutional quarantine, along with those marked as persons with disabilities and above the age of 80 years. The special facilities will include mandatory sanitization of polling stations, thermal checking of voters at entry points either by polling staff or paramedical staff or an ASHA worker. A Delhi court has awarded the death penalty to convict Arya Khan, who was associated with Indian Mujahideen, for the murder of Inspector Mohan Chand Sharma in the 2008 Butler House encounter case. Calling the matter as the rarest of rare case, Additional Sessions Judge Sandeep Yadav said there was no manner of doubt that Khan was responsible for the murder of Inspector Mohan Chand Sharma. Apart from awarding him the death penalty, the Delhi court also imposed a fine of 11 lakh rupees as well. Information and Broadcasting Minister Prakash Javadekar has said that Delhi court's verdict on Butler House encounter today thoroughly exposes the terrorist sympathizers and doubters lobby in the country. In a tweet, Mr. Javadekar said, now Sonia Gandhi, Mamata Banerjee and Arvind Kejriwal, who raised questions on the integrity of our police forces, must apologize to the nation.
The Lok Sabha has taken up discussion on demands for grants of the Ministry of Railways for 2021-22. Initiating the discussion, BJP MP Ram Kripal Yadav lauded the efforts of railways during the lockdown period to provide relief to migrant workers. He said spending on capacity building of rail infrastructure has increased manifold during the NDA regime, and the government is continuously working for the modernization of railways network and infrastructure. He said the railways have worked to improve safety and security of the passengers, and numbers of accidents have significantly reduced in recent years. He alleged that discrimination had been made by the previous UPA regime with regard to railways project. Another party MP Janardhan Singh Sigriwal demanded for the construction of Chhapra Champaran rail corridor. Jasbir Singh Gill of Congress said that present government is doing discrimination in creation of railways infrastructure in Punjab and other regions. Hussain Masoodi of the National Conference alleged that the government has not made special provision for Jammu and Kashmir in the rail budget. AIMIM-MP Imtiaz Jalil said that only less than 2% was allocated to Nanded division from the total 6,798 crore rupees to South Central Zone budget. IUML MP from Kerala, E.T. Mohammad Bashir cautioned the government against the privatization of railways. Besides, Ranjana Ben Dhananjay Bhatt of BJP, Anupriya Patel of Apna Dal, Namanagareshwar Rao of TRS, Shyam Singh Yadav of BSP, Sushil Singh of BJP, Dileshwar Kamath of JDU and others also expressed their views on the demands for grants for railways 2021-22. Discussion is still underway. The government today said that there is no proposal right now to bring crude petroleum, petrol, diesel, aviation turbine fuel, natural gas under the goods and service tax. In a written reply in the Lok Sabha, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said the GST Council has not made any recommendation for inclusion of these goods under GST. She said the Council may consider the issue of inclusion of these petroleum products at an appropriate time, keeping in view the relevant factors including revenue implication. Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar has said that the world has accepted India's leadership position in terms of championing measures to mitigate climate change. He said that India is the only country in the G20 forum implementing the Paris Accord commitments on renewable energy and afforestation. Mr. Javadekar was answering to a question in the Rajya Sabha today.
India is in leadership position as far as renewable energy is concerned. All over, more than 14-fold increase in solar production has taken place in last 6 years. More importantly, Prime Minister declared 175 gigawatts target to be achieved by 2022, and we are on course to achieve that. And you will be happy that Prime Minister has further scaled it up to 450 gigawatts.
The Environment Minister said that the country has already overachieved in terms of its target of reduction in emission set under the Paris Agreement. This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
चलो मिलकर एक शुरुआत करें, चलो एक फैसला
Now here is a review of proceedings in Parliament today. First from Lok Sabha. Writer is Kumar Rakesh of PTI. A number of bills were introduced in the Lok Sabha today before taking up a discussion on the demand for grants on the Railway Ministry. With the objective of giving a proper interpretation of a Supreme Court ruling, the government introduced a bill that seeks to define certain role and powers of the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi. Minister of State for Home Affairs G. Kishan Reddy introduced the Government of National Capital Territory of Delhi Amendment Bill 2021. Mines Minister Prahlad Joshi introduced a bill to amend the Mines and Mineral Development and Regulation Act 1957. The amendments are aimed at bringing mega reforms in the mines sector with resolution of legacy issues and making a large number of mines available for auction. It will help strengthen the auction-only regime and boost transparency in the system. Shashi Tharoor of the Congress opposed the bill, saying it fails to acknowledge the adverse impact on environment and biodiversity. He said it is a threat to the lives of the people residing close to the mines. Responding to this, Mr. Joshi said, the regulation of mines and mineral development are under the control of Centre. The discussion was continuing till the writing of the script. A bill to amend the Juvenile Justice, Care and Protection of Children Act 2015, which seeks to increase the role of district magistrates and additional district magistrates, was also introduced in the Lok Sabha. Mr. Tharoor opposed the bill at the introduction stage, but Women and Child Development Minister Smriti Irani rejected the points raised by him. Initiating the discussion on the demand for grants on railways, Ram Kripal Yadav of the BJP asserted that the Indian Railways has rendered yeoman service during the coronavirus pandemic by transporting 43 lakh migrant labourers, distributing 2 crore free food packets and making available several hundred rail coaches to be used as healthcare centres. Mr. Yadav said 513 projects worth 1.83 lakh crore rupees have been completed during the National Democratic Alliance NDA regime. Congress member Ravneet Singh said migrant labourers and the poor suffered during the coronavirus-induced lockdown. They did not get the benefits they should have got. Replying to Singh, Thakur, who is the Minister of State in the Finance Ministry, said during the lockdown migrant labourers faced hardships while returning home and listed the steps taken by the government to provide relief to the migrant workers during the lockdown. The minister said there were instances where someone donated the entire pension amount to the PM CARES Fund. Even those who got wages through Manrega scheme also donated money to the PM CARES Fund just to help others, Mr. Thakur said. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar said India is fully cognizant of the employment concerns of the people working abroad and expects governments in the Gulf to be helpful in facilitating early return of those compelled to return home due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Making a statement in the Lok Sabha on the recent developments pertaining to the welfare of the Indians abroad, NRIs and PIOs, the minister said the focus of the government's efforts in the last few months has now shifted to Indians going back to their usual places of work, study and domicile. He said air transport bubble arrangements have been concluded with 27 countries so far in this regard. He said the government is fully cognizant of the employment concerns that Indians abroad have in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. Especially in the Gulf, there has been tremendous economic and social disruption that has impacted them, the minister said, adding that New Delhi has softened it somewhat, but the real challenges are still there to be addressed. He assured the House that the government will take up this matter on a priority basis. The External Affairs Minister said the government has led the way for an economic recovery at home, and similar untiring efforts are being made to help renew livelihoods of Indians abroad. The minister said the air travel arrangements are a necessary enabling measure, but beyond that, the government has been active in urging the foreign governments to look sympathetically at the employment of the Indian citizens as they chart their own recovery pathway. The Gulf has been the focal point of our endeavours, though this is a global effort on our part, the minister said. In recent months, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has engaged the leaders of Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar and Oman, while Mr. Jaishankar has travelled to the UAE, Qatar, Bahrain and Oman to discuss with the governments the welfare of people there. The minister said that he has recently hosted the UAE Foreign Minister in India and expected to do so with that of Kuwait very soon. He said during his recent interactions, New Delhi has a reason to expect that partner governments in the Gulf would be helpful in facilitating early return of many who were compelled to go back because of the pandemic. He said the support extended from India for the stay and travel of Indian citizens was warmly acknowledged by the community and the government alike. The provision of medical supplies and food items from India as an exceptional gesture to the Gulf during this period clearly had powerful resonance. So did the arrival of health professionals and medical staff, especially the dedicated medical team India sent to Kuwait, Mr. Jaishankar said.
The External Affairs Minister said ambassadors and senior officials have been in regular touch with most community organizations and get their feedback on both the health situation and the economic recovery. He said the government is aware that there are problems of compensation, re-employment and reskilling that need solutions. And these are today the core of New Delhi's agenda with its partner governments. He said the welfare of students studying abroad has also been a particular concern, and embassies across the world have been given instructions to reach out to them, monitor their situation and assess their return, the minister said. The External Affairs Minister said the focus has now shifted to their going back to universities. Some countries have been more open in this regard than others, obviously reflecting their particular COVID challenge. This, therefore, remains a high priority, and our endeavour will be to encourage an early return to normalcy, he added. The minister said under air transport bubbles, which are temporary reciprocal arrangements for commercial passenger services until the resumption of regular international flights, the Air India Group alone has operated more than 9,500 flights, taking 10.9 lakh passengers abroad so far. The largest numbers have gone to the Gulf. Recalling the predicament of two crews who were in particular difficulty outside Chinese ports, the minister said the situation was also eventually resolved through great perseverance. The minister said New Delhi will continue to interact with many governments to devise more friendly SOPs for crew change requirements. Mr. Jaishankar noted, he said serious problems were faced by fishermen who were working out of Iran. Some Gulf nations also witnessed this, perhaps to a lesser degree. With technological changes taking place at a fast pace in marine navigation, a bill was introduced in the Lok Sabha today to replace an over 9-decade-old law governing lighthouses. The Marine Aids to Navigation Bill 2021 seeks to provide for a fresh framework to establish and manage vessel traffic services besides the use of the term Marine Aids to Navigation instead of lighthouse to enable further use of modern forms of aids to navigation. The bill, moved by Ports, Shipping and Waterways Minister Mansukh Mandavia, also seeks to rename the existing Director General of Lighthouse and Lightships as the Director General to provide a framework for establishment, operation and management of vessel traffic services. The bill aims at repealing the Colonial Lighthouse Act 1927 and provides for empowering the Directorate General of Lighthouses and Lightships DGLL with additional power and functions. It proposes to incorporate the global best practices, technological developments and India's international obligations in the field of marine navigation. Union Chemicals and Fertilizers Minister D.V. Sadananda Gowda today introduced a bill in the Lok Sabha that seeks to provide the national importance tag to 6 pharmaceutical education and research institutes in the country. The National Institute of Pharmaceutical Education and Research Amendment Bill 2021 provides for granting the status of nation importance to the 6 institutes in Ahmedabad, Guwahati, Hajipur, Hyderabad, Kolkata and Rai Bareli.
And now, a review of the proceedings in Rajya Sabha. Writer is Sanjeev Chopra of PTI. The Rajya Sabha saw the passage of the National Institutes of Food Technology, Entrepreneurship and Management Bill 2019 by voice vote. The bill declares National Institute of Food Technology, Entrepreneurship and Management Kundli and the Indian Institute of Food Processing Technology Tanjavur as National Institutes of Food Technology, Entrepreneurship and Management. Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar, while replying to the discussion on the bill, said all policies of national importance would be implemented in these institutions along with applicable reservations. He was clarifying doubts by some members on the implementation of the reservation policy in these institutes. The upper house also saw a debate on the working of the Ministry of Jal Shakti, where members raised several issues relating to water and irrigation facilities in their respective areas. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar made a statement in the House on recent developments pertaining to the welfare abroad of Indians, NRIs and PIOs. He said the government was in touch with the Gulf countries and expected them to be helpful in facilitating early return of Indians to work who were compelled to quit jobs on account of the COVID-19 pandemic. The minister said India is fully cognizant of the plight of Indian workers and students abroad on account of the COVID-19 pandemic and has repatriated till date 45.82 lakh people from 98 countries under the Vande Bharat mission. He said re-employment concerns of people working abroad will be addressed by the government and that it is working to improve the economic growth and create job opportunities. Mr. Jaishankar said the focus of the government's efforts in the last few months has now shifted to Indians returning to their usual places of work, study and domicile, and air transport bubble arrangements have concluded with 27 countries. He hoped a good economic recovery would result in job opportunities. The minister said in situations where people will either not return or have delays in going back, the government has started a skills mapping program, especially for workers coming back from the Gulf. In recent months, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has engaged with the leaders of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar and Oman, while Jaishankar has travelled to the UAE, Qatar, Bahrain and Oman to discuss with the governments there the welfare of people.
The minister said from the recent interactions, New Delhi has reason to expect that partner governments in the Gulf would be helpful in facilitating the early return of many who were compelled to go back because of the pandemic. Earlier during the 0 hour, the minister assured the House that India will take up with the UK when required on the alleged incidents of racism in Britain. During the day, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman also introduced a bill to allow 74% FDI in the insurance sector. The Union Cabinet on Wednesday had given its nod for amendments in the Insurance Amendment Bill 2021 that seeks to amend the Insurance Act of 1938. The permissible FDI limit in life and general insurance currently stands at 49% with ownership and management control with India. Participating in the discussion on the working of the Ministry of Jal Shakti, Digvijay Singh of the Congress accused the Ministry of not utilizing funds and flagged the recommendations of the Standing Committee in this regard. He questioned the government over its promise of providing piped water to each household by 2024. Gopal Narayan Singh of BJP defended the government, saying every village is working towards providing potable water. He said the river Ganga will also become clean in another 3 to 4 years. Shanmugam of DMK raised the issue of Kaveri water distribution and alleged that Tamil Nadu is suffering because the state is not being given adequate water from Kaveri river basin. Earlier during the 0 hour, Priyanka Chaturvedi of the Shiv Sena raised the issue of press freedom. Sasmit Patra of the BJD demanded that athletes participating in the 2021 Olympics and their support staff be vaccinated against COVID-19. Vandana Chavan of the NCP, Ashok Bajpai of BJP, Tiruchi Siva of the DMK also took part. And that's all in Parliament Review.
In cricket, India will look forward to continuing their winning spree as they face England in the third T20 match at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad tomorrow. Powered by a fearless half-century on debut by Ishan Kishan, India made a roaring comeback in the second T20 yesterday and defeated England by 7 wickets to level the series. And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. India achieves another milestone in administering more than 3 crore COVID-19 vaccine doses in record time. Centre approves financial assistance of 5 lakh rupees each in death cases of journalists due to COVID-19. Campaigning gains momentum in Assam and West Bengal for the first phase of assembly elections. Delhi court awards death penalty to Arya Khan in 2008 Butler House encounter case. There is no proposal to bring petroleum products under Goods and Services Tax, says government. Lok Sabha takes up discussion on demands for grants of the Ministry of Railways for 2021-2022. Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar says the world has accepted India's leadership in mitigating climate change. And in cricket, India to take on England in third T20 match in Ahmedabad tomorrow. For details of these stories and more, log on to our website www.newsonair.com and News on AIR app. And with that, we end the evening news. Good night.